Welcome. We're on the red couch for our Civil Rights series with Neil Phillips, founder of Visible Men, an organization dedicated to mentoring and leading Black men and boys to new heights of success. He's the principal of Visible Men Academy, a charter school in Manatee County, Florida, dedicated to providing boys with outstanding academic, character, and social education in a nurturing school environment. Neil has over 25 years of experience as an educator, entrepreneur, coach, and youth advocate. He's regarded as a national thought leader and renowned speaker on Black male achievement, minority education, character development, and youth empowerment. A Harvard graduate, Neil went on to play professional basketball in Australia. He's been an educational administrator for the last 10 years, serving as the assistant headmaster at the Landon School for Boys in Bethesda, Maryland, and most recently as interim head of the upper school at the Out of Door Academy in Sarasota, Florida. Neil, I am thrilled to have you on the red couch.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
So you grew up you were born in Jamaica.
That's right.
And then when you were 5, you came here and actually attended Landon School. So I would like to know a little bit, though, about your father and his dream for you.
So my father is among my many heroes, and my father is a very gentle, soft-spoken man who is incredibly committed to his principles, personal principles, and really his dreams for me were to grow up and be a good husband and father and community citizen. The most important thing for my father was that I grew up to be a good person, somebody who was thoughtful and considerate of others, who found ways to contribute to the lives of the people around him. That's who he wanted me to be, and it is an everyday inspiration for me, my father, and the role that he has played and continues to play in my life.
He was a really both of your parents were really hardworking people, and your grandmother was part of your upbringing as well. Did she live with you?
My grandmother did live with us. My parents both worked, so when I came home from school, it wasn't mom or dad that I was seeing, it was my grandmother. And she was the one that, gave us a snack after school and told us where we could go, where we couldn't go, and what time we had to be home, and all of those things until my parents got there. So my grandmother was a very, very integral part of my day-to-day, my upbringing throughout elementary and junior high school.
So nice.
Yeah.
So you attended Landon School yourself, and you were the only Black student in your whole class.
That's right.
What was that like? I mean, was it hard to acclimate?
I was aware that I was the only Black student in the class, but beyond that, I felt loved at Landon, and my teachers and the school community, and most of all my friends and their families. It wasn't something that was forefront of my mind. I thought that they accepted me for who I was. I felt very supported and encouraged. So it wasn't difficult to acclimate. But where I became aware of it was I started to feel probably what you could call sort of a self-driven pressure. I did feel that I was representing more than myself in terms of how I conducted myself and what I was able to achieve and accomplish, and mistakes and setbacks. I did have a sense that that I was living for more than just myself as a Black person at Landon, that how I performed and what I was able to achieve and accomplish would have meaning beyond just myself. That I did have that awareness. Right.
So you went to Landon, and then you went also to Harvard and played. Did you play ball there as well?
I did. I played football and basketball there. Yes.
Impressive.
Oh, well. Yeah, well, it was a lot of fun. It was an opportunity that really was a dream. I grew up just so passionate about sports, and as many, if not most, young athletes do, you dream of going to the highest level that you can. And so when I had the opportunity to play basketball collegiately and then professionally, and then also football, it was a manifestation of a dream for me to be able to play at that level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So after you came back from Australia, you became the athletic director at Landon.
Yeah, a few years went by where I did some other things, but eventually I returned to Landon as the athletic director. That's right.
So what did you see? Like, how did you see the plight of black boys when you were there, and how did that inspire you to start this Visible Men, the mentoring program?
Yeah, well, for me, I grew up with role models all around me, many of whom were black, but not all. And I didn't look at race as sort of a prerequisite to whether or not someone could be a role model. I didn't look at gender for that. It was just someone who I thought had attributes or skills or characteristics that I admired. That's what I needed to consider someone a role model.
Right.
When I was at Landon, I worked with a number of black boys who, on paper, were very well positioned for success. They were at a fabulous school. They had a family that had the wherewithal, if not financial, but just the awareness and interest to get them to a great school and support them through difficult times. They had great teachers. They were very bright, had everything on paper that you would say these folks are going to be successful.
Right.
Yet there was something about their experience there that had them feeling insecure about that success, that had them feeling less than confident. And it made me realize that if boys in this environment, again, with all the trappings of success, were unsure about their prospects, what must it be like for boys who were in far more difficult circumstances? And I dove in deeper around the plight of black boys and men across America. And the more I learned, some of which I already knew, but the more I learned around the depth of the statistics and the tragic numbers around high school graduation rates and unemployment and incarceration and recidivism and early mortality, the more it was clear to me that I had to find a way to involve myself in whatever way I thought I could contribute.
Right. So why Visible Men, the name?
Oh, wow. Well, you know, I love reading and I have always been deeply moved by Ralph Ellison's novel, and which to me is one of the greatest pieces of American literature we have from the 50s, Invisible Man. Right. And throughout Invisible Man, the protagonist literally goes hundreds of pages without a name. You never learn what the protagonist's name is, right. And it is sort of the epitome of invisibility. There's just a man who's going through living life with no identity. And what I wanted to do was create an agency that would really highlight just the opposite, where we wanted black boys and men to have really strong identities and to have role models and mentors be seen, so that visibility was a hallmark of what we were trying to cultivate and then celebrate, was all of the wonderful things that black men and boys were doing. In addition to the tragic statistics, there is the other side of those statistics where there is success and there's community contribution and there are aspirations and inspiration. That's what I wanted the visibility piece to really signify.
It is a really great name.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
So take us to Visible Men Academy now.
Sure.
The school. And what is the curriculum? How does this curriculum differ? Like, what do you offer that's different?
Yeah, so Visible Men Academy, we're a charter school, which means we're a public school in Manatee County. As a public school, we have certain accountability measures standards to which we're held, that are all based around academic proficiency that our students have to develop, and which is great. We need to be held accountable to those measures. In addition to the academic rigor and the academic challenge that we want to put forth to our boys to help them become better readers and mathematicians and historians, all of those things, we also believe that it's absolutely critical to cultivate character development and social development in our boys. Yeah. So our curriculum is a blend of the academic pursuits and proficiencies as well as the character and social development piece. So we rely very, very heavily on our core values. Our core values are selflessness, honesty, integrity, niceness, and excellence. And that creates the acronym SHINE. Our school motto is let your light shine. You can't walk a minute around our school without hearing a teacher refer to the word shine, or one of our sons, we call our students sons, S-U-N-S, one of our sons talking about, hey, Mr. Phillips, I'm shining today. And, you know, so it's a big part of what we do. And so we're trying to be very explicit about what it means to shine, and trying to help our sons define those words so that they can understand them and then apply them. So our curriculum, the character and social development piece, is every bit as important to us as the academic piece. And they're all important, so we work very hard to make sure that they're on equal footing.
I love that, you know, the whole thing is based on the book where the man, they had no name, and then not only did they have their own name, of course, but they're also this other name, sons. Or, you know, a son, each one is a son.
That's right.
It's really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's so important to us. We feel like every young person has gifts.
Yeah.
We know that that's the case. And we feel like our job as the adults in their lives, and in our case, the educators, that our job is to create an environment where their gifts can manifest. And if we can do that at our school, so that these boys benefit, their families benefit, their neighborhoods, their communities, the world gets better one son at a time.
I love it.
And for us, knowing that every young person has gifts, and looking at our national landscape and seeing that you know, less than 50% of black boys across the country graduate from high school. That's around that figure for Hispanic boys. When you look at those statistics, it just feels to us that we are leaving far too much talent and potential on the table as a country, as a society, and we're not okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of the personal challenges that some of your students face?
Oh, wow.
I know they come from different backgrounds.
Yeah. I mean, we have some diversity amongst our student population, certainly racial diversity. We have very little socioeconomic diversity. The overwhelming majority of our students are families qualify for free and reduced lunch, which puts them below a threshold of income. And so almost all of our students are living in poverty. And their personal challenges are tied to everything that comes with, and we see those revealed on a daily basis. So one of the real challenges for us, and frankly it's an opportunity for us, is to be very sensitive to what is happening at home for our boys and our families, and to make sure that we do two things at the same time. One of them is to support them and maintain the sensitivity and understanding around challenges that they're facing. And the other thing is to make sure that our sensitivity toward that doesn't cause us to compromise our expectations. We believe these boys are capable of whatever they're becoming, whoever they want to be, whatever they want to be. We believe that very genuinely and sincerely. In order for that to happen, the expectations for their conduct, their performance, their achievements have to be high. So for us, it is those two things. It's sensitivity to their realities and its expectations for who they can become.
That's wonderful. It's a fine line, you know, you want them to believe in themselves, but you also want to understand what they're bringing to every day to school.
That's right. Well, certainly it is a fine line. And when you spend time around our boys, it makes it easier to navigate that, because they bring with them so much energy and so much joy, and they really do emanate this potential and these gifts. So the part about high expectations is not a difficult thing for us, because we know that they're very, very capable of that. And we also know that there are large numbers of people who have come before them who have overcome difficult circumstances.
Right.
You know, every one of us in our lives, regardless of our socioeconomic status, has difficulties and has things that we have to overcome. and that's just part of the human condition.
Right.
So we don't allow our boys or our families to use challenges as an excuse. We see them as growth opportunities, and certainly we want to position it that way for our sons, and they respond well to that kind of approach and that kind of mindset.
I love that, and I love the idea of the mentoring. It's so important to have people that have come before us or that are there with us, hopefully.
That's right.
For the challenges, but also like the happy times, the celebrations, and the exciting things to kind of walk with us.
Well, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because there are those happy times and celebrations. And you know, our program at Visible Men Academy borrows from Visible Men. We have a network of men, visible men that we call them, who are men in the community who come to our school Saturday mornings, the first Saturday of every month, and they're from all different walks of life and represent different professional backgrounds, and they come and they spend time with our boys. And it is such a beautiful thing to watch our boys connecting with these men and asking them questions about their backgrounds, about what they do for their job and what that means. And it's wonderful to see what that does for our visible men, to know that their lives matter and that they're being watched, and that their impressions and their insights around how to live a meaningful life are really valuable. So that's a very special time for us to be able to connect the two. And the big thing that we're trying to do through that program is we want to connect all of our sons to future possibility.
Yeah.
We think that if we can connect young people to what the future can be, that not only is it inspiring to them, but it informs some of the decisions they make today.
Right.
It helps to cultivate a sense of delayed gratification, of investment in your future, of understanding that some things you're going to see tangible results right away. Most meaningful things you won't. That takes time. And if we can get our boys in that mindset, we know that that's going to be of tremendous value to them academically, physical development, character and social development. So that's a big, big thing for us.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, there was a statistic that by the time students reach third grade, if they're not at their reading level, that there's more than a 60% chance that they'll drop out of school.
Yeah, so
like, what can we do to close that literacy gap?
Yeah, we're really starting to understand what that early literacy, how important the early literacy is. And so I think that there are a couple of things that we need to focus on. One is we need to continue to promote to parents how important it is to expose your young child to words, right? Reading them, saying them, just exposure to words is just such an important thing. Some of us, the way we have been brought up, the way we raise our children, sort of take that as a given. But we do need to promote that more so that all parents of young people recognize how important that is to get them off to a good start.
Absolutely.
Another thing we need to do, I think it's really important that we cultivate a love of words, and primarily through reading, right? I mean, my kids, I have two young boys who get excited for the bedtime story, just as excited now as they were, 5-6 years ago. And because they love it. They love being transported from reality into a story. They like the exploration. They like the learning. And if we can cultivate that interest that young people have for reading and for words, then a lot of that exposure to words will be self-driven. And that's really, really important. And then the other thing, and we're faced with this on a daily basis at school, intensive work around reading and writing and vocabulary, sight words, those sorts of things. You've got to double the amount of time you spend on it. You have to identify students who are having greater difficulty than others. You have to provide them focused, one-on-one instruction, and there's no substitute for that intensive time on task as it relates to this issue. So,
talking about expectations, that's like a huge piece, and I've heard you speak before, and so I know you believe that expectations for Black boys and Black men are very low. So How does changing expectations make a difference? How does that help?
Well, I think you've hit on what, for me, among many big issues around the underperformance of black men and boys in our country, to me, this is the biggest, is that our expectations for their outcomes and performance as a society are far too low.
Right.
And if you look at movement, social change, significant change happens when the gap between expectations and reality gets too large. Mm-hmm. When that gap is too big, change happens. How do you get that gap to get to a point where, well, you have to raise expectations. The other choice, having reality dip even lower is not acceptable. So you have to raise expectations for that gap to get to a point where we all say, we need some significant change. We need change in the way we're raising our boys. We need change in the way we're educating our boys. We need change in the way we're dealing with them in the criminal justice system, in the work world. We need significant change. So if we had higher expectations, then it would force us to say it's not acceptable that less than half of the black boys in this country are graduating from high school. Mm-hmm. And one frustration I have is that I've heard that term, unacceptable. I've heard that associated with this tragedy, with these maddening statistics, yet it has been acceptable for too long.
Right.
So I'd like to actually sort of restore the authenticity of the word unacceptable. If it is not acceptable, then we have to make the change accordingly so that we're getting far more out of our black boys and men, because we know they have so much to offer.
Right. So I know you've also talked about having children and people in general understand their value as a huge piece of this issue.
That's right.
If you had a secret to how you've been living your life and how you hope for the boys to live their lives, a happy and successful, meaningful life, what would that secret be?
The secret is love. It's love. Being able to love others and being able to be loved yourself. And there are some sort of step-up elements to that. And one of them is passion, right? Identifying your passion and feeding that passion. I think another is being light-hearted, being able to laugh and being able to interact with others in a way that says that you care about them. And then absolutely what you talked about is this notion of human beings being valued. I think that we have reached a point in our country where we sort of say, okay, well, all men are created equal, right? That's from way back in the days of the founding documents of our country. But I still think we have a long way to go in terms of saying and really meaning that all men are valued equal.
All men.
All men. And that is regardless of race, of socioeconomic status, of what they do for work, or just the inherent value that comes with each of us as human beings.
Right.
And if we value people in that way, it will be easier for us to love them and easier for us to be loved by them. And once that's there, you don't have a problem with expectations anymore.
I am so excited for your school. I wish your school all the success and blessings and just, I know this is your first year, and I wish you many, many more years of success.
Rachel, thank you very much. That means the world to us. We really appreciate it.
I'm really glad you came.
Thank you. It's been great being here.
Thank you for joining us
On the Red Couch.